I was the kind of kid, I grew up in a Christian family that they had 8 children. They thought I would be the one that wouldn't get saved. But God came for me. And so I become a pastor and a youth pastor. And I worked for a big church, but so they didn't have to pay. I did work on the side, and I was out on a big job. And I went up and took someone's place. I was a foreman. And they were causing a rolling blackout in the city, so they sent power back my way. So I took some of the main lines that run Denver, Colorado. And when they turned the power back on my way, 2 lines arced like in high wind, and it blew my linesman gloves off because they were only good for 10,000 volts, and blew the tips off and blew these fingers off into dust. But I'm a worshiper, so I'm saying, God, I can't. How am I going to play worship, man? No fingers, just a couple charred bones. And I remember that when I was being electrocuted, I was crying out. Because you know when you're in trouble, when you're a little boy, you go, help, Daddy, help. Well, we got an awesome daddy in heaven. I was like, help, Daddy, help. And I felt 2 hands, because you can't get free from that much power, and it wasn't stopping. So I was literally part of it. And so it stopped my heart, because your heart either stops or blows up. And I felt 2 hands when I prayed hit my chest and blow me off and take everything I was hooked onto free. And I fell a little over 40 foot. And broke all the bones. My feet were shattered. Tibia bones are broken. Knees were broken. My femurs were broken, sticking out my leg. My hips was broken. My tailbone was broken. My back was shattered. And my neck was broken. All my ribs were caved in, just starting to puncture through my heart. But the electricity had blown holes all the way down. My arms were fractured. My fingers had fractures all over. My head was fractured. My jaw was broken. My neck was broken. Whew. Then I remember that when I fall, a big guy tried to catch me, one of my workers, and I broke through his arms and flipped him over me. But I hit that hard where all that was broken, and my ribs were all broken, and they just were starting to puncture what was left of my heart, because I had 2 holes the size of these fingers blowing all the way through me, and it blew a section of my heart off. And it went down and cooked everything, French fried everything inside, to where my lungs were literally shattering into holes. And then I blew out my leg here, and literally my jeans were on fire, and I had flames shooting out my legs when they hit the ground. And I remember that God let me hit just hard enough to start my heart. And that guy slowed me down just enough to not to stick my ribs right through what was left of it. And I remember, if you're the only Christian there, you get to stay awake to pray for yourself. Because, see, I believed in healing. I'd seen a lot of healing. So I cried out. And my Father answered. And he said, don't worry, anyone looks at you, when anyone says, I'm going to take care of you. And I knew my Father's not a liar. Don't you know your Father's not a liar? He does what he says. And what's in that Bible, like you said, when you get the truth, he does the truth. It don't even matter if I believe it or not. It still comes out his way. Because he tells the truth. And he just spoke to me, and I believed him because I knew his voice. And I remember even they sent down all the ambulance guys, and they ran up to me, and they looked at me, and they just freaked out, lost the color in their face, and backed up. And I want to tell you, when you freak out the ambulance guys, that's not a good sign. That is not a good sign. So you know what? Lots of people want to see a miracle, but not very many want to volunteer to need it. Not very many people want to need a miracle. But God, you have to need a miracle to see him. And you have to go. So I remember God going, they put me in a flight for life, and they freaked me out. And I said, call my pastor, man. He believes in healing. Get him come. And I was saying, call my roommates. They're crazy Christian guys. They'll come and pray. They believe in healing. And one of the people there was dating. My roommate was a nurse at that hospital and worked in the emergency department. She came back to work. She just left. And she just looked at me and said, my friend's going to die today. There's no hope. See, when the natural has no hope, we know who hope really is in. Who's real hope? Real hope is Jesus Christ. He is everything in hope. We have no hope without him. And I remember that my pastor came, was flipping. He was just freaking out. And I remember that I said, I got to see how come my hand hurts so bad. And I looked at him and go, well, Pastor, I can't play guitar no more. I'm going to do worship. And they had me in all these air casts. And they said, we're going to cut you open, look side. And they cut me open. And they found bones from my feet in my chest. And I was just a mess, and it shot up. And they're pouring blood in as fast as they could. And it wasn't even bad enough then that they even gave me tainted blood that gave me AIDS and hepatitis C. Whew. You want to think when Satan wants to take you out? He's like, I got this pesky little guy. He gets people saved. I think I'll just French fry him and slam dunk him. But God said, I got another plan. I got another plan that's greater. He don't even see what's coming. Do you know if Satan would have known what was going, he would have never killed Jesus. He doesn't see what's coming. He doesn't see everything. But God does. And I remember that when I was in there, and I'd been in there for 3.5 months. When they opened me up and looked, they just stapled me up and sewed me up and put me in and listed me with 0% chance to live. Do you know what? That's the very thing Satan wants to speak over everybody. You have 0% chance to do something good. You have 0% chance to feel okay in your life. You're a 0. But that's not what God says. And after 3.5 months, they worked on me, and they said, his heart's not bringing the crash cart. And I'm telling you, when your body's more dead, Jesus is more alive to you. Your body's out of the way. I'm telling you, he comes up and he shows up in your room and talks to you. And if you have something, you can't use your hands or something, you better have the Bible inside you. I'm telling you, read your Bible now and get the word inside you alive when you need it. And when I was there, and I remember the doctor said, his heart's not beating. And I was semi-conscious in a drug-induced coma. And I remember saying, I'm thinking, bring in the crash cart. And I'm thinking, isn't that where they shock people? How can more electricity be the answer? I'm thinking, how can this be? And I'm thinking this stuff, and they come in and they shock me. And all my broken parts go flying out, and everything hurts, and it felt like someone stuck a hot spear in my heart and pulled it out. And he goes, increase the power. It didn't work. And I'm trying to holler, but I got a tracheotomy and all this stuff in me, and I'm on an iron lung because my lungs aren't working. And I'm trying to scream, don't do that again, sucker, that hurts. And they shocked me 3 times in full power, and it didn't work. And they cracked my heart open. They massaged my heart, and they shocked me for 1 hour and 45 with nothing going on, no brain waves. So they said, well, you fought hard. And they tagged my toe, zipped up the body bag, and rolled me to the morgue. Jesus. But I tell you, some people are walking around more dead than when I was in that body bag. And I want to see them released. I want to see them released. And I watched them go in. And I remember being down there, and they said I was down there for more than 5 hours. And 1 hour and 45 dead upstairs, more than 5 hours down the morgue. And I remember that. I remember sitting there, and I was thinking, wow. And I kind of, a little bit of roused down there. I was thinking, whoa. And I seen this demon come for me. He said, I've come for you, and there's nothing you can do. Just spoke to my heart, didn't speak out loud. And right then I seen these 2 giant angels stood up beside my bed. And I realized they're taller than the ceiling above me. And they're just muscular. And they just turned. They said, no way. The master said you could bring them this far and no further, and drove them out right off. But see, that demon wanted me to agree with him so he could say, I'll just drag him to hell. I think if I would have said yes. And I'm like, no. God said, I'm going to live. And I believe that. My dad's not a liar. So when they did it, and they was there, and I'm down there for 5.5 hours, and then Jesus says, it's not your time yet. I'm going to blow breath back in you and send you back. And the name of our ministry is called Ruach Elohim, and that means breath of God. And God just came down and said, it's not your time. Went, and right as he did it, this nurse that just got saved unzipped my bag and came down and held my hand and prayed over me. And right then, people I'd taught youth with a mission how to do street evangelism. And I had friends all over the world. And I got 10 cards and letters that said, we don't know what's going on with you, Ron, but God said, write this time down and write this date down and send it to you, and said, we were praying for your life. None of them knew I'd been electrocuted. And when you break down the time zone, this exact minute, they filled out my death certificate. God said, I'm going to raise up an army to pray for you. See, you think you sit here in church and you pray, they're talking about a prayer season that no one wants to come, and God changes things by that. He changes things. He took a brand new Christian and put in her heart to come down and unzip that bag. And she seen my heart beat right as God blew breath into me. And she's like, get him upstairs, man. Get him back upstairs. He's alive. And they took me back upstairs, and nothing worked. They took me to rehab, and only one hand moved a little. One day, all these deals were going off, and they said, he's getting way too much air. God put a new set of lungs in me.
Brand new lungs.
Brand new lungs. In heaven, there's a room full of body parts. And the angels are saying, no one asked for these. We're sitting here bored because no one will ask for these body parts. I remember that as God was working and stuff, one day they took MRIs and x-rays of my back all shattered. So people came in and prayed for me. The next day they took MRIs and x-rays to see how to do surgery. And my back was in 2 pieces, but still sticking through the spleen each way. And that freaked him out so bad. It was so different. And I'm laying in full body traction. I can't move. That they had all the machines checked. Guess what? They checked out perfect. And the next day when they did it, my back was together. God had mended it. Oh, come on. See, one day they took out all this stuff they'd done in my throat. And I had these atheist doctors who were saying some stuff. And I said, God, I just want to tell them about your love. They just don't know your love. And they took out my tracheotomy. And they were explaining how that this atheist doctor, how that the rest of the doctors say I won't be able to talk. but I'm a preacher. I'm called to go out in the streets and tell people about Jesus. And she took that, and I was praying just to be able to tell her about Jesus and his love. And she took that out and said, I think maybe in a couple years, maybe a couple more surgeries, you'd be able to talk. And I talked through a hole, which is impossible in my throat, and told her all about Jesus Christ and his love. And every doctor in that hospital came into my room so I could tell them how much Jesus loved them. You don't think there's a Jesus? Then I got this group of doctors that come in. They moved me to a rehab, and they said, and one day, I could tell you this, one day they unwrapped my hands. They'd been praying for it. They were just all wrapped up. And they unwrapped my hand to cut off my hand. And God had stuck my fingers back on with full feeling so I could worship him. And they checked. They said, you know, if you get a cut, your fingerprints change. My fingers were blown off, and they put them on. They had me fingerprinted, and I had the same fingerprints. They said, that freaks us out. I'm like, same guy put them back on. These original equipment. Some of them parts came right out of that warehouse in heaven. You don't think there's a God? Then I remember that they moved me to this hospital rehab. There's a world-renowned rehab to work because only one hand moved. That's all I had. And so I remember that I was sitting there and I was like, wow. And this team of doctors comes from the old hospital across town, and they're looking weird at me. And they kind of got red eyes. I go, what's going on? I said, in our hurry to put your blood back in you, we changed your blood system like 10 times over. We gave you full-blown AIDS and hepatitis C. So as hard as you've fought to live, we've killed you. You'll never live through this. How many people know that no matter how bad you're down, Satan wants to send something worse? He's going to tell you won't live. They shot my brain full of drugs so to kill my brain so I wouldn't feel it while I died. And God didn't let it work. They did stuff because it says you could drink deadly poison in the name of Jesus and you won't be harmed. And God did that. And I watched them work over and over and doing stuff. And I was laying there just talking with them and praying all I could and hearing people come and do worship. I loved worship. They come and they have to have their guitars all scrubbed to get in there, sing. And they'd put worship and the Bible on me, play it all the time. And these nurses that weren't Christians that come in and steal my tapes, all the players they put on for me and stuff. But God would always bring something back. And I remember that, just to hear that, and the more alive that my spirit was, the more dead my body was, and the more time I spent with the Lord. And I remember that I just told these doctors and the team that came in to tell me, we've killed you. You know what I told them? My daddy's not a liar. My daddy said I shall live and not die. So I want you to know I forgive you, number one. And number two is you better start testing me because my God's going to kick this out of me. So I had 10 positive tests of AIDS and hepatitis C, and everyone after that time came back clean because my daddy wasn't a liar. I was going to live and not die. I remember the first time God told me I was going to walk, and I bugged everybody in that hospital. But they used to, I got to tell you this too first, they used to put me in little pools because you can move your body better. And I would take that one hand and go over because I believe Jesus wanted to touch people. And I would touch the people with that one hand I have. And people got out of there healed, paraplegics. But I'm going, God, what about me? I'm in this water. You don't think you'd say that? If the water's there, I'm in the water, okay? What about me? It's not your time. But the first time he said, I bugged everybody in the hospital. And they took me in. And I got to where the double bars are. And I couldn't get up. I couldn't get up myself. And I couldn't get out there and walk. And I bugged everybody. And they're going, hey, hotshot, where's your God at? And I got pretty depressed, and Satan was trying to throw everything he could at me. And I said, Jesus, when you were on earth and Satan came at you, had scripture. Just give me scripture to attack this. And so it started coming out of me as they're teasing me and rolling me back to the room and said, oh, why so downcast, oh, my soul? Why so troubled and disturbed within me? Put my hope in God. And I started saying that over and over till the depression left. And they took me to my room and put me in my bed because I couldn't do it myself. And then they brought in, I was there for about 30 minutes alone. I said, God, I don't know what faith is. If that's not faith, I bugged everybody in the hospital, and I really believed I heard your word. So just tell me, if I'm in this wheelchair the rest of my life, that's okay. I just don't want to strive. I want to be at peace in you. So if I'm there, okay, just tell me so I quit striving. But if you're going to do this, then can we put mag wheels on this? Can we get the coolest Jesus stickers we ever have? And I'm going to go down the road, and I'm going to tell everyone I can with my one hand that works about how good Jesus Christ is, because you're still the very best thing that ever happened to my life, and you're the only good thing that'll ever be in it, truthfully. So if that's where I'm at, fine, just tell me. And I got quiet, and I heard this still small voice said, you are going to walk. But I didn't say it was today. You came up with today all on your own. I'm like, I'm cool with that then. Okay. But you know how many people are mad at God because it didn't happen in their way? It didn't happen in their timing, and they left. They're not going to talk to God. They're mad at God. They don't want anything to do with him because they're short-sighted. It was their plan, not God's plan, and God's timing. And about a week and a half later, these doctors were in there. It's crazy. I had doctors, psychiatrists in the room talking to me. They came in to explain to me why that night, why my back was too bad, why I got muscles that are missing in my leg to make it work. They're not connected together, and it still works. I'm missing this section of my heart. They don't know how my heart beats right. They put an EKG on me. I had a man having a massive heart attack, but my blood pressure's fine. They don't understand me. And so they're in there, but they're explaining to me how my lungs might not be good, my back's not good enough, your leg's never going to work. They're telling me all this stuff, and I'm like, I don't care what you say to me. My dad's not a liar. My dad told me I'm going to walk out of here. So they're in there, and 2 psychiatrists, all my therapists, doctors, nurses, and the psychiatrists are going, this man is schizophrenic, paranoid. He lives in a complete make-up alternate world. You know, if you believe in Jesus, yeah, that's what they believe too, yeah. They studied me 3 times with world-renowned doctors, and they claim I'm an alien because it's easier for them to believe that than believe I'm a Christian that God healed. So it's world-renowned doctors. They think I'm an alien. So I take the Bible and I prove to them I'm an alien. I believe in Jesus Christ. I believe his son came and died for me. You're right. I am an alien. It says right here, you're a foreigner and alien in this land. I'm a certifiable alien. But so I'm in this room and I'm talking to them and they're writing all this stuff down, explaining to me. And God says, prophesy to them, son. I go, what do you want to tell them? So I weighed 85 pounds. I had only one hand that worked. And I looked at him and I said, nevertheless, and I love too, they said, well, what are you going to do if you're stuck in that wheelchair? I said, I know that answer. I'm going to be a one-hand wheelchair racer for Jesus, and I'm going to go down the street, tell everyone I can about Jesus Christ. And then I remember that I was in there, and then God said, prophesy to him. I said, what do you want me to say? So I ran sports ministry in our area, and I did it with city leagues and with churches and stuff. And God says, tell him this, in 2 months, you're going to be playing softball, and you're not going to be in that wheelchair. And they're all going to be there to watch. Whew. These guys they wrote 3 more pages about me. And the psychiatrist said I was unreachable. They never talked to me again. But you know what happened? About a week and a half later, God came and said, today's the day. And I prayed all day because I was a little more shaky. And during the day, he built faith in me. And they snapped some crutches on me when I bugged him again and said, go ahead, hotshot. And the Lord said, watch this. And went, poof. And I got up out of that wheelchair and I walked out of that hospital. You know what? Jesus is not a respecter of people. One of him over your life. One body bags fall off. Things you've been dragging around. The past gets left behind. And you walk out of there. And I'm going to tell you, 2 months later, where I was a youth pastor, our church is playing against this famous bar in that city. And I got up my turn, and I hit a line drive over first base in the right field. And I'm running to first, and no one's going after the ball. I'm like, wait a minute, I almost died. I went this fair and square. And I'm running to first. And everyone sat down that field and just whipped and praised God, even the bar. And in the crowd was 200 hospital workers, the doctors, both them psychiatrists, every therapist, all my nurses were watching that happen because my daddy's not a liar. And I'm telling you, whatever dreams and visions God gives you is not a lie. You start praying for the timing to come forth and God will show you where it's at. You start waiting to come alive in him and hear what he has to say. See, I'm not good because of anything I do. I'm good because my Father lives in me and he loves me, that Jesus Christ came inside me. He didn't come for extraordinary people. He came for ordinary people to let extraordinary God move greatly in them.